live in interesting times.
For the headlines.
President Trump calls for radical immigration reform to favor skilled English-speaking workers over the poorly educated and shut the door on frivolous asylum claimants.
World-renowned architect who designed the giant glass pyramid at the Louvre Museum in Paris, I.M. Pei, has died. He was 102 years old.
Facebook, facing criticism for enabling disruption of elections worldwide, said it was taking down hundreds of accounts linked to an Israeli political consultancy.
And our EBC correspondent Tyra Lu shows us the spring flower season in Japan.
Amalma Angeles, wherever you're watching from around the world, thank you very much for joining us.
We welcome our viewers here in the Philippines and around the world. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sam Cepeda.
And now to the news. U.S. President Donald Trump presented his comprehensive reform of the legal immigration system, designed to select people on the basis of their merit and no longer on the basis of family ties.
We cherish the open door that we want to create for our country, but a big proportion of those immigrants must come in through merit and skill. The White House plan makes no change to the number of green cards allocated each year, but instead of admitting people through random chance, we will establish simple, universal criteria for admission to the United States. Finally, to promote integration, assimilation, and national unity, future immigrants will be required to learn English and to pass a civics exam prior to admission.
The proposal focuses on border security infrastructure. It moves the country toward a merit-based immigration system that gives preferences to highly educated and highly skilled individuals. It doesn't address the plight of the so-called dreamers brought to the country illegally as children.
Every year, we admit 1.1 million immigrants as permanent legal residents. These green card holders get lifetime authorization to live and work here and a 5-year path to American citizenship. This is the most prized citizenship anywhere in the world by far. Currently, 66% of legal immigrants come here on the basis of random chance. They're admitted solely because they have a relative in the United States, and it doesn't really matter who that relative is. Another 21% of immigrants are issued either by random lottery or because they're fortunate enough to be selected for humanitarian relief. Random selection is contrary to American values and blocks out many qualified potential immigrants from around the world who have much to contribute. Under the senseless rules of the current system, we're not able to give preference to a doctor, a researcher, a student who graduated #1 in his class from the finest colleges in the world. We discriminate against genius. We discriminate against brilliance. We won't anymore once we get this passed, and we hope to get it passed as soon as possible. The biggest change we make is to increase the proportion of highly skilled immigration from 12% to 57%, and we'd like to even see if we can go higher. At the same time, we prioritize the immediate family of new Americans, spouses and children, the loved ones you choose to build a life with. We prioritize, and we have to do that. They go right to the front of the line, right to the front of the line where they should be.
As the U.S. Navy vows to maintain its presence in the South China Sea, its chief clarified that naval operations in the region are not meant to provoke any country.
Yesterday, the exercise that we conducted was done as planned between the Philippine Coast Guard and the U.S. Coast Guard. The observers, the China Coast Guard that was there were observing, but everything was normal.
China has been protesting U.S. freedom of navigation operations in the South China Sea, the latest of which was when 2 U.S. warships sailed near Gavin and Chigi reefs in the Spratly Islands last week. As they have done so in the past 70 years, the U.S. will continue to maintain its presence in the South China Sea, part of which is the West Philippine Sea. The Bertholf and Philippine vessels BRP Batangas and BRP Kalangaman practiced search and rescue scenarios and other procedures near Scarborough Shoal in disputed waters off the western coast of the Philippines, the Navy said in a statement. Chinese Coast Guard vessels stood off and observed the U.S.-Philippine exercises but did not interfere, according to a report by NHK, the public broadcasting service in Japan.
In other news, the dramatically deteriorating humanitarian situation in Tripoli has highlighted that much more needs to be done to protect all non-combatants caught up in the battle for the Libyan capital, as the number of victims rises, according to the UN. In an update to journalists in Geneva, the International Organization for Migration reported that 66,000 people have now fled Tripoli to cities along the coast and towards the Nafusa Mountains since clashes erupted between the internationally recognized government and eastern forces loyal to Commander Khalifa Haftar last month. Here's Safa Miseli, spokesperson for the IOM Libya.
As it stands, the clashes are definitely intensifying, and we have not noticed a lot of differences since the beginning of the armed conflict on 4th of April.
From 5 April until 9 May, 454 dead and 2,154 wounded.
Our teams report seeing thousands of civilians moving on a daily basis to safer locations in cities along the coast and towards the Nafusa Mountains. UNHCR is in a race against time to evacuate people out of these detention centres as quickly as possible, and we urge the international community to come forward with offers of evacuation, humanitarian corridors, or whatever it takes to get people out of harm's way.
The total number of people who have been returned since the clashes to Libyan port is 871. IOM Libya and IOM does not consider Libya as a safe port. And there's much needed increase in search and rescue capacity in the Mediterranean, as events of Friday show.
The UNHCR has repeatedly called that at this time nobody should be returned to Libya, that there are no safe ports there, and we cannot consider this to be a rescue if people are being returned to dire conditions inside Tripoli detention centres.
Ms. Miseli also expressed concern for more than 3,000 migrants still being held in 11 official detention centers in and around the capital. And they include children and pregnant women, according to UN Refugee Agency UNHCR, which urged the international community to come forward with, quote, offers of evacuation, humanitarian corridors, whatever it takes to get people out of harm's way.
Meanwhile, 11 more Filipinos in war-torn Libya will be repatriated to the Philippines, Philippine Charge d'Affaires El Mercato said. In a tweet, Canto said the Filipinos were evacuated from Tripoli. He said they are among 55 Filipinos assisted by the government since fighting broke out in April. The government has since raised the highest alert level, which means mandatory evacuation of Filipinos. Some Filipinos, however, have opted to stay behind, thinking the fighting will soon end. Tensions rose in Libya as rebel forces from the east of the country tried to enter the capital.
In other news, a nurse by profession, Danilo Favor, who was the first Filipino to hold elective office in the United Kingdom, made history anew after his proclamation as town mayor of East Grinstead in Sussex following the 2019 local elections there. Take a look. His election as the new town mayor for 2019 to 2020 was announced on the official website of East Grinstead since 2011. Favor has been the town councillor of Asphalt's ward. On his election, Favor expressed his pride and appreciation. He was quoted as saying that he moved to the town 19 years ago to work at the Queen Victoria Hospital, or QVH, but, quote, never in his dreams thought he would be a town councillor, let alone town mayor. Favor, now a British subject, is the first Philippine-born town mayor in the UK. He worked as an ophthalmic nurse practitioner at the QVH. Prior to his government work, he received the Presidential Banaag Award for outstanding Filipino individuals and organizations overseas that have advanced the cause of and promoted the interests of overseas Filipino communities. Favor also received a Community Service Award in 2014 from his Mid-Sussex District Council for his active involvement in numerous community organizations. He graduated in the Philippines with a degree in nursing and continued his ophthalmology nurse specialist studies at King's College in London.
The bodies of 11 missing Niger soldiers have been discovered after an ambush by armed men killed 17 of their colleagues on patrol near the Mali border, security sources said. The military patrol was ambushed on Tuesday near the village of Tongo in the western Tilaberi region, sources said. One of the military vehicles had set off an explosive device. A source referred to what happened as a terrorist attack. Several troops were also injured and evacuated to the capital, Niamey. This is the same region where 4 American and 5 Niger soldiers were killed in a jihadist attack in October 2017. Niger is one of the number of poor, fragile countries in the Sahel region that have been hit by a jihadist revolt. Different jihadist groups operate in the country's west and north, and Boko Haram from Nigeria in its southeast.
A new public opinion survey has revealed the staggering impact of war on the people of South Sudan, showing that 79% of the population have experienced the death or displacement of a family member. 22% reported that more than 15 of their family members had been forced to flee their homes during the conflict.
This perhaps comes as no surprise to people in this country who have suffered through the past 6 years of war and humanitarian suffering, but it is a staggering number of people who have had direct impact of somebody in their family dying.
Despite that hardship, the survey found optimism remains high and that 89% of South Sudanese believe that it's likely that there will be durable peace in the war-ravaged country by the end of this year.
It demonstrates the pain and the suffering that people have gone through in terms of loss of life and displacement. It demonstrates the absolute desire for an optimism for peace next year, and the fact that the situation is improved. But it does put, I believe, the focus very much on the leadership to ensure that that peace is delivered.
The survey commissioned by UNMISS asked 2,300 people across the country about the security situation, the prospects for peace, and the performance of UNMISS in protecting civilians and building durable peace. 70% feel the current security situation in South Sudan is either very or somewhat safe, while 28% felt they were still not safe. 80% felt the security situation was either much better or better than a year ago, and only 5% felt it was worse or much worse.
Candidates in the race to replace Jean-Claude Juncker set out their thoughts on nationalism and populism in the EU during a debate in Brussels on Wednesday night. Frans Timmermans, leader of the Party of European Socialists, said Brexit Britain is like Game of Thrones on steroids. He said the political chaos raging in Britain should serve as a warning to others tempted by the siren call of populism.
People who used to vote for my party and many parties here are now voting for nationalist parties, sometimes even extremist parties. That's our fault. Apparently, we did not convince them to stay with us. Apparently, they believe in these propositions. They're now being disappointed. Look at what the divisiveness of Brexit has done to the United Kingdom. Today, the United Kingdom looks like Game of Thrones on steroids. And that's because of this divisive politics.
Tomorrow's headline.
From Germany, Manfred.
Nearly 3 years on from its shock vote to leave the EU, Britain remains a member.
They are calling the Search and Rescue Centre. No one is picking
mind. I think Jean-Claude Juncker, the current Commission President, called and named his Commission the Commission of the Last Chance. And he is an UPP Commission President. I think he did a good job. I want to call the next Commission not the Commission of the Last Chance. I want to call it the Commission of a fresh start, of a new era.
Nearly 3 years on from its shock vote to leave the EU, Britain remains a member. Its bitterly divided politicians deadlocked and unable to agree on the details of the divorce. Currently held by former Luxembourg Premier Jean-Claude Juncker, the head of the Commission, serves a 5-year term as Europe's chief legislator, trade negotiator and regulation supremo. The EU is split over how Juncker's successor should be chosen, in particular how great a role the results of the May 23-26 elections to the European Parliament should play. Wednesday's debate, broadcast on European TV stations and online, was the first to feature Weber, the head of the center-right European People's Party group, who has the backing of the German Chancellor Angela Merkel. Weber, criticized by some as uncharismatic and little known beyond the EU bubble, said he wanted to open a new chapter as head of the Commission.
On these things. And there are the two sides of the medal: strict border control.
Open, big heart for refugees to protect people in need of protection, a common asylum system.
U.S. police evicted the last of a group of protesters who have been occupying the Venezuelan embassy in Washington in support of President Nicolas Maduro, ending a weeks-long standoff. Take a look. Police and firefighting vehicles were seen inside the grounds of the diplomatic mission in the U.S. Capitol, which was taken over last month by a number of left-wing and pacifist activists protesting Guaido's bid to push Maduro from power. In Caracas, Maduro condemned the eviction, saying it was done in a brutal way with commando-style forces.
Desde el gobierno bolivariano y revolucionario de Venezuela, junto a todo el pueblo de Venezuela, rechazamos y repudiamos el asalto a la embajada por parte de grupos policiales del gobierno de Donald Trump.
Now, internet star Grumpy Cat has died at the age of 7, her owner said early Friday. And I quote, "We are unimaginably heartbroken to announce the loss of our beloved Grumpy Cat," they said in a statement on Twitter. The famous feline, whose frowning visage endeared her to millions of fans across social media and saw her photographed with celebrities including Stan Lee and Jennifer Lopez, passed away Tuesday in the arms of her mommy Tabitha at her home in Arizona. They said despite care from top professionals as well as from her very loving family, Grumpy encountered complications from a recent urinary tract infection that unfortunately became too tough for her to overcome. Despite her permanent frown, she was super cute and cuddly. Grumpy Cat was also known to her family as Tartar Sauce. She rose to fame in 2012 when Tabitha's brother, Brian, posted a photo of the cat on Reddit. She received her Grumpy Cat nickname due to her permanently grumpy face, which is caused by the cat's underbite and feline dwarfism. Despite her constantly grumpy appearance, Tartar Sauce's owners have always said that 99% of the time she is just a regular cat. In 2014, Tartar Sauce was the star of her own film. In 2014, it was reported by the Express that Grumpy Cat had amassed a fortune of around 64 million pounds. Grumpy Cat has 8.5 million fans on Facebook, 2.5 million followers on Instagram, and 1.5 million on Twitter.
All right, we now head on again to the PICC, where our Eagle News reporter Erlo Bringas will give us the latest on the proclamation of winning senators in the 2019 elections. Erlo.
Yes, Alma, almost a 70% of a certificate of canvass on 167 cities, municipalities, and countries where the absentee voting happened, accomplished by the COMELEC as of this time. The sessions of COMELEC acting as Board of Canvassers is adjourned today at 8 p.m. here at where the canvassing of election returns continues to verify and process it by the Board of Canvassers. As of this time, they accomplished a total of 147 certificate of canvass. This is out of 167. Meanwhile, COMELEC said that they target the proclamation of victorious senatorial party list group candidates may tentative happen on Sunday. Spokesperson James Jimenez said in a press briefing with the media. Jimenez said that it is a reasonable date but not confirmed yet. He said, adding that no proclamation will be done on Saturday. The proclamation of the winning Senate candidates and party list representative will be done simultaneously. Jimenez said that the COMELEC, sitting as the National Board of Canvassers, has already accomplished and paid a total of 147 out of 167 certificates of canvass as of 4 p.m. today. Jimenez also clarified that the COMELEC has yet to send out formal invitations to all winning senatorial candidates and party list groups. Based on the latest partial and official tally of the COMELEC, almost 70% that they already canvassed. Re-electionist Cynthia Villar and Grace Poe retained the top 2 slot, while the third one is Bongo, number 4 Cayetano, number 5 De La Rosa, number 6 Angara, number 7 Lapid, number 8 Marcos, number 9 Tolentino, number 10 Pimentel, 11 Binay, 12 Revilla, 13 Aquino, 14 Ejercito, and 15 Estrada. The data details of partial of official results from COMELEC from the Senate race figures is as of 7:20 p.m. today. While for the partial and unofficial results, with 97.88% transmitted and from a COMELEC transparency server, May 17 as of 3:03 p.m. Still in the first is Villar Cynthia, number 2 Grace Poe, number 3 Bongo, number 4 Cayetano, 5 De La Rosa, 6 Angara, 7 Lapid, number 8 Marcos, 9 Tolentino, 10 Bong Revilla, 11 Pimentel, 12 Binay, 13 Ejercito, 14 Aquino, 15 Estrada. The National Board of Canvassers will resume expectedly the canvassing by tomorrow at 9 p.m. and they will target all the proclamations of winning senatorial candidates and party lists tentatively at Sunday in the afternoon. That's the latest news here on NBOC PICC Pasay. Reporting for Eagle News, Erlo Bringas. I'm 1 with 25.
Yes, Erlo?
Yes, Alma.
Yes, how many % of the election returns have already been tallied?
Well, according to COMELEC, they already tallied almost 70% of election returns from all over the cities, municipalities came, and also from absentee voting, Alma.
All right, thank you so much, Erlo. Erlo Bringas bringing us the latest there in the PICC on the senatorial candidates election. All right, thank you very much. Eagle News International will be right back. Stay tuned.
Health is our most important.
Boeing said that it completed its software update on the 737 MAX after 2 deadly crashes resulted in a global grounding of the aircraft. The proposed fix which addresses a problem with the flight handling systems thought to be a factor in both crashes, must now win approval from U.S. and international regulators before the planes can return to service. U.S. airlines have targeted August as the date they expect to resume flying on the 737 MAX. But Boeing's announcement, which lifted shares of the embattled company, comes only a week before the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration is set to brief its international peers among civil aviation regulators on its process for allowing the planes to fly again. This is an important milestone, but it's only one step, said Scott Hamilton of aviation consultancy Lee Ham. Getting this software package today, 1 week ahead of the FAA-hosted global regulator meeting, doesn't leave a lot of time for the FAA to decide. Boeing said it has flown 737 MAX with updated software for the maneuvering characteristics augmentation system, thought to be a factor in both crashes for more than 360 hours on 207 flights. In both the Lion Air and Ethiopian Airlines crashes, the MCAs pointed the plane sharply downward based on a faulty sensor reading, hindering pilot control after takeoff, according to preliminary crash investigations.
Facebook, facing criticism for enabling disruption of elections worldwide, said it was taking down hundreds of accounts linked to an Israeli political consultancy. The social media platform said it was banning the Israeli company Archimedes Group, which on its website boasts of winning campaigns worldwide. The U.S. giant said Thursday it had removed 265 accounts on its Facebook and Instagram platforms, Facebook pages, groups, and events involved in coordinated inauthentic behavior. The site's activity focused on several African countries and on Latin America and Southeast Asia, and was intended to sway voters by peddling misinformation. The individuals behind the fake network tried to hide their identities, but some of the activity linked back to Archimedes Group, which Facebook said had repeatedly violated its policies.
Wikipedia co-founder Jimmy Wales voices his concern over the balkanization of the internet and assures that the online encyclopedia is constantly improving in an interview with AFP at the Vivatech show in Paris. Here's more.
We're beginning to see balkanization of the internet in many different countries around the world. Efforts are being made to change rules and so forth. Even in Europe, so the UK is about to implement a whole blocking system for porn websites. There's just all kinds of different things going on that are eroding the idea of a single global internet. This is very unfortunate. The Chinese language Wikipedia, which is the most important language for China, obviously, has been blocked there for quite a long time. So it's something we're not happy about. We encourage the Chinese government to change their policies. But, well, it's a long-standing problem. Wikipedia is never a place to come and organize a group for a terrorist attack or anything like that. It's just not what we do. And we're not like social media in that we're not a place for wide open freedom of expression. We're writing an encyclopedia. So we're fortunate compared to the other big sort of websites in that we don't really face a lot of the issues that they have to struggle with.
More news will be coming your way when Eagle News International returns. Stay tuned.
Health is our most
alas 4 hanggang alas 5 ng hapon.
Addressing a meeting of Pacific Island leaders in Fiji, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said that they have the moral authority to tell the world that climate action needs to be reversed. The islands are, he said, leading by example, becoming more resilient and investing in measures to adapt to the changing climate. The UN chief expressed his admiration for the commitments made by the countries of the region to cut greenhouse gas emissions and said that they set an example for the most developed economies of the world.
The Prime Minister was telling me in the meeting we just had that climate change corresponds to the battle of our lives from the point of view of Fiji and the Pacific. As Secretary General of the United Nations, I have many battles, but I have no doubt to say that as a grandfather, this is also the battle of my life. We need to recognize that for the moment we are not winning this battle, for the moment we are not on track, not even for the commitments made in Paris to be respected, and we absolutely need political will, a much stronger political will, to be able to reverse these trends and to be able to rescue our planet.
During his visit to Fiji, Guterres was also welcomed on board Uto ni Yalo, a traditional zero-emission vessel which was built as part of a fleet blending ancient Pacific boat building knowledge passed down through generations with modern materials and green technology. Uto ni Yalo, which translates into Heart of the Spirit, has circumnavigated the world twice, voyaging over 80,000 nautical miles, visiting countries in the North and South Hemisphere to inspire community, corporate, and policy commitments for the protection of our island and ocean spaces.
So we try to keep it as traditional as possible. This is a zero-carbon vessel. This is also to show that it is possible to bring back sustainable sea transport.
North Korea is experiencing its worst drought in over a century, official media reported, days after the World Food Program expressed very serious concerns about the situation in the country. The isolated, impoverished North, which is under several sets of sanctions over its nuclear weapon and ballistic missile programs, has long struggled to feed itself and suffers chronic food shortages. It recorded its worst harvest for a decade last year, according to the United Nations, down by 500,000 tons as natural disasters combined with its lack of arable land and inefficient agriculture to hit production. In the year to Wednesday, the North received just 56.3 millimeters of rain or snow. The Rodong Sinmun newspaper reported the lowest since 1917. Water was running out in the country's lakes and reservoirs, said the paper, the official mouthpiece of the ruling Workers' Party, adding that the ongoing significant effect on the cultivation of wheat, barley, corn, potatoes, and beans. In their most recent estimates, the UN's Food and Agriculture Organization and the World Food Program said about 10.1 million North Koreans, 40% of the population, were suffering from severe food shortages, a similar figure to recent years. Hundreds of thousands are believed to have died during a famine in the mid to late 1990s, a period known as the Ardu's March in the North.
It is estimated that about 10.1 million people, around 40% of the population, are considered to be food insecure and in need of urgent food assistance. The groups, the social groups that are more affected and in danger are children, young children, and women, pregnant women and lactating women.
The assessment teams are back from the field. They have spoken to households, farmers, local officials. They have visited nurseries. What is clear to us is that we are very concerned with the situation of food security and nutrition in DPR Korea. What is clear is that the succession of bad drought, heat wave, and floods this year is badly impacting the crop production.
International sanctions against Pyongyang technically do not ban humanitarian aid, but strict interpretations of restrictions on banking transactions and imports by the North, along with a travel ban for American citizens, have hampered relief groups' activities. The North previously reported it was experiencing its worst drought in 100 years in June 2015.
Meanwhile, a thick layer of smog envelopes Mexico City, which has declared an air pollution alert, urging people to stay indoors, canceling school, and moving the semifinals of the First Division Football League to another city. Take a look.
Familia como yo, pues no abrimos ventanas, parte del ruido ambiental, la contaminación, que no entre smog.
De hecho, yo soy asmático y pues a cada rato estoy tosiendo y me falta la respiración. Tengo que usar más veces el salbutamol que uso para poder respirar porque se siente muy pesado el ambiente.
The owner of an elementary school in Mexico City that collapsed in a 2017 earthquake, killing 19 children and 7 adults, was indicted Thursday on homicide charges after construction irregularities were found at the site. Monica Garcia Villegas, owner of the private Rebsamen Elementary School, was arrested Saturday after she spent more than a year on the run. She will now face trial on 26 counts of culpable homicide, officials said. She is accused of allowing construction work at the school that violated existing regulations and may have led to the facility's collapse and the victims' deaths, prosecutors said in a statement after her arraignment at a Mexico City court. The school was the focus of worldwide attention in the hours after the September 19, 2017 earthquake, as rescuers mounted around-the-clock efforts to find any survivors. Garcia Villegas immediately went into hiding as reports emerged that she had built a big apartment with even a jacuzzi atop the school without obtaining the necessary construction permits. Experts say the extra weight likely contributed to the building's collapse. Garcia Villegas became a symbol of the corruption that, according to activists and victims' families, makes the toll of Mexico City's frequent earthquakes even worse.
Countries need to take greater action to reduce the number of babies born with low birth weights, which put their health at risk, a new UN-backed medical study is urging. According to the report, around 1 in 7 babies worldwide weighed less than 5.5 pounds, or 2.5 kilograms at birth, according to latest data from 2015. The call for a bigger investment to tackle the low birth weight issue comes from experts from the World Health Organization, UN Children's Fund, UNICEF, and the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, WHO report that 80% of the 2.5 million low-weight newborns die every year. Highlighting the lack of progress, lead author and academic Hannah Blenko said that in 2012, WHO's 195 member states committed to reduce low birth weight by 30% up to 2025. But so far, there's only been a decrease of 1.2% worldwide.
The study on the estimates of low birth weight found for first time that more than 20 million newborn babies in 2015 had low birth weight. This means that they were born with a weight below 2.5 kilos, which is the definition we use for low birth weight. So a baby can be born too soon, being preterm, because the baby is born before 37 weeks of gestation, or it can be born too small because it suffered from intrauterine growth retardation, or it can be both, born too soon and born too small. And of course, these babies are the ones that are at higher risk of negative consequences. More than 80% of the newborn that die every year are low birth weight. Two-thirds about of them preterm and the other with intrauterine growth retardation. But those that survive, they also have increased risk for disabilities, for childhood stunting, developmental or behavioral problems, and also in the long term in life they do have increased risk for chronic diseases like cardiovascular diseases and diabetes.
And the news continues here on Eagle News International. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Health is our most important.
Here's Ben Bernaldez for our sports news.
In the NBA, Stephen Curry scored 37 points as the Golden State Warriors fought back to defeat the Portland Trail Blazers 114-111 and take a 2-0 lead in their NBA Western Conference Final Series on Thursday. Curry sparked a 14-3 run for the Warriors as the NBA champions overturned a 108-100 deficit with just over 4 minutes remaining in a pulsating battle at the Oracle Arena. Earlier, the Trailblazer had surged into a 17-point early in the second half, only for the Warriors to hit back with a sustained points onslaught. The Warriors erupted for 39 points in the third quarter to haul themselves back into the contest, but Portland, led by Damian Lillard, refused to roll over. It was another huge performance from Curry, who has stepped into the void created by Kevin Durant's injury absence to deliver back-to-back 30-point games in the opening 2 games of the series. Curry finished with 37 points from 11 of 22 shooting, adding 8 rebounds, 8 assists, and 6 turnovers. In boxing, tension runs high between WBC World Heavyweight Champion Deontay Wilder and his challenger Dominic Breazeale ahead of their match-anticipated fight at Brooklyn's Barclays.
My blood is boiling right now. I can barely keep my composure right now. But due to the fact we can't get paid outside of the ring, and it's a lot of money on the line, baby. And my family got to eat. So with that being said, I will keep my composure till that time comes. The closest you're going to get to this belt is in your dreams. And I'm pretty sure you had a lot of wet dreams about that. That's about the closest you're going to get to this, I promise you. You never faced a killer like me in the ring. You never looked into a killer eyes like me. But you'll feel it, though. Everything he said is a lie. But I can't wait. Like I said, I'm going to be the daddy, and he going to be the baby.
I'm Deontay Wilder's retirement plan. I'm going to beat him so bad that he's not going to want to ever lace up the gloves again. Nor is he going to be physically fit and able to lace up the gloves again. As we all know, sports are 80% mental, 20% physical. He ain't got neither one of those, and when I'm done with him, the mental aspect of boxing is going to be completely beat out of him.
Qatar inaugurated its first purpose-built stadium for the 2022 World Cup on Thursday, staging a prestigious domestic cup final in the $575 million, 40,000 capacity Al Wakra venue. The ground, designed by late British-Iraqi architect Zaha Hadid and located in a coastal town south of Doha, erupted into cheers as Emir Cup finalists Al Saad and Al Duhail ran onto the pitch.
Very nice and very beautiful. Too much people in Qatari and non-Qatari come to here today.
We had great attendees today with more than 37,000 or 38,000 spectators. This has been the culture. We saw the change of culture in Qatari, the culture to buy tickets, to attend early. This is one milestone towards 2022. And, actually, the legacy out of the project is not the name more than the design, the inspiration of the design.
The venue's distinctive retractable roof, meant to resemble the sails of a traditional dhow fishing boat, is made of 1,400 pieces and was shipped to Qatar from Italy. It was plunged into darkness with a pre-match show and performers assembled around a giant illuminated inflatable pearl on the center of the manicured pitch. And these are the stories for EN Sports. I'm Ben Bernaldez and I'm 1 with 25.
And finally, everybody is talking about how amazing the Japanese cherry blossoms are. But there are so many more that Japan has in its spring flowers to marvel at. Here's Tyra Lu to show us.
Hi! Today, Aki and I will go tulip watching. We're here in Showakinan Park in Tachikawa City in the western part of Tokyo. Join us as we go around the place and enjoy springtime here in Japan. Hi! There's more to the sakura craze or the cherry blossom craze here in Japan when it comes to spring. In fact, after the cherry blossom season comes the wisteria and also the tulip season. It's not a wonder why many people love springtime. Different kinds of flowers bloom particularly in this time of the year. The annual month-long flower festival held in this multi-purpose park draws a great number of visitors, both tourists and locals alike, in the area. Particularly this year, it opened in the last week of March with the cherry blossoms and will end with the tulips in the last week of this month. In this season, you will see tulips of all sorts of colors.
here at Showakinen Park in Tachikawa City in the western part of Tokyo, Japan. This is Tyronel Pililu together with Aki for Eagle News International, and we are 1 with 25.
So cute. Thank you, Tyra.
Thanks, Tyra. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Tumblr. Also check out our boards and Pinterest and pictures on Instagram. I'm Sam Cepeda. Thanks for joining us.
And that's it for tonight's broadcast. I'm Alma Angeles, and
we're 1 with 25.